4 conversation starter questions that spark meaningful engagement. And every single question that I'll share with you is under 4 words, and I'll share why I love them. I'm Chad Littlefield. I get to help people ask powerful questions and create conversations that matter for a living. And in this video, I'm going to share 4 questions that apply in lots of different contexts, because you know your life better than I. And so the first question right off the bat is, how might we? And then you fill in what you're trying to accomplish in a particular meeting or conversation or anything else. And so if you're at work and you want to talk about possibilities rather than complain about problems or talk about the weather or anything else, how might we, and fill in the blank. This is like a designer's question, right? How might we create a smaller, better iPhone? How might we fill in the blank, something that you care about? So how might we go down to a 4-day work week? Lots of folks that I know don't love a culture of complaining or gossip at work, and that question just drops you right into the land of possibility and contribution, as opposed to this negative spiral. Question number 2, this is like the antidote for anytime you've been in a dialogue and it's ended and you're not sure how to continue it. This is a question from Michael Bungay-Stanier, the author of The Coaching Habit, and it's 2 words. What else? And there's a little bit of risk associated with this question because it's so open, but when somebody shares, even if you ask a question that is as rote as, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Massachusetts, so I actually moved to Asheville, North Carolina, lived there for 5 years. What else? Tell me what you loved about Asheville. It's like the question form of tell me more. And so in the right context, especially if you're sitting and you're like really thoughtfully in conversation with somebody, just asking the magic of that second question, what else? And letting the quiet sit, letting them actually think, choose, and decide what to say, can bring out things that never otherwise would have come out, which is kind of cool. Third one of my co-authors' favorite questions: what brings you joy? If you ever use your Scene We Connect cards, this deck with a whole bunch of questions designed to create conversations that matter, I've been working on the sequel to this deck, and the idea behind the sequel is allowing people to quite literally talk their way into tomorrow, have a conversation that edits or shapes their future in some way. And I think the question, if I could get this close enough, the question, what brings you joy, is a really lovely question at work to know about other people. And here's why. If you're a leader, or if you're not a leader, you're just on a team, if you know what really brings everybody else joy, you can find ways to weave that into work. If you know that 3 people on your team really love the ocean, as you're picking where to do a next team retreat, you could slide closer to water, if that's an option, because you know the answer to this question. In other words, knowing people's answers to this question, what brings you joy, allows you as a leader or a teammate to actually talk about, do, and participate in things and involve people in things that bring them more joy. And the 4th question I got from Peter Block, and I love it. It's one of my absolute favorite questions. I'll give you 2 variations of it. The first variation: what struck you? So after a meeting, you're walking out, you're at work, you're sitting by a water cooler, you hop on Zoom. What struck you about the meeting we just had? What struck you about blank? And the idea, the variation in the English second friendly version of this is, what did you notice about that meeting? And this question is magic for 2 reasons. Number 1, what struck you? Peter Block talks about the idea of actually being like struck by lightning. What struck you about a moment? And so it's taking, if you ask what struck you about yesterday, or what struck you about a strategy meeting, or what struck you about this conference, what you're asking for is, can you say, of all the time that you spent there, can you pick out a moment that really hit you, a particularly valuable, transformative, thought-provoking moment, and can you highlight that and share it with the rest of us? That's such a useful tool to be able to invite information out of people and into the world. The second reason I really love that is lots of times conversations are about the content of what's happening. If I'm facilitating a meeting and I've just invited a group to connect before content, they've had a little chat 5 minutes before a meeting, when I bring them back and I ask what struck you or what did you notice about those conversations, they never, ever, ever tell me about the content of the conversation. I don't know the topics or what they actually talked about. What they always respond with is the process underneath. And so they're struck by how well people listened. They're struck by how willing people were to share. They were struck by the similarities that showed up. And so now, as a leader, as a person at work, I'm actually talking about something one layer deeper and beyond, literally beyond the surface of the words that you're hearing. And that actually builds culture, or it takes all the invisible stuff that's happening and brings it up to the surface and makes it more apparent. So when people are talking about, I was struck by how much commonality we had in our answers, what they're doing is saying, hey, we've got a lot to share in common as a group, instead of just talking about the actual words that were exchanged. And that is a much deeper, more profound way to have a conversation. Now I'm curious, in this video, what struck you? Drop your response in the comments.